Live from my office in not so sunny Lihui, Kauai, it is time for the Ukulele on the Ground podcast. Hello everyone, and my name is Aldrine Guerrero. Joining me are Mr. Kahai, the legend. Fergan, say what's up, Kahai.
What's up?
And my apologies, no Aaron the Voice Nakamura today. He is taking a slight break. He's off island, but today joining us. The fourth Beatle to this to this operation, we have Mr. Magic Mike Odo. Hey,
what's up, guys?
What's up, Mike? How's it going? How are you, buddy?
Pretty good, man. I was actually waiting for the podcast to start so I could say in person, congratulations.
Ah, thank you. I was gonna pull a Cody Rhodes. I'm like, so what do you guys want to talk about?
That's the first thing I want to talk about. I wanted to do it for everybody. Congratulations on your second.
Thank you.
Saw the picture. She's super cute.
Yeah.
That mini ukulele.
Yeah, I don't know if I've shown it to the here on the podcast. Let me get it actually. So I use this during the private lessons, just to kind of show that like, oh, my hands are. Some people are like, my hands are too big, my hands are too small. So for people who are saying my hands are too big, here's like a tiny ukulele. It's even tinier than the one that Aaron has, because Aaron has that nano uke, and this uke is even smaller than that. So this is a mini Q2 by iUke. I don't think they make these anymore. I was actually given this by my friends over at Aquila. So Aquila being my sponsors for my strings, they actually collaborated with these guys because somebody got to make these tiny strings that that's on this ukulele. But let's see if it's into. But yeah, tunes. You can play this thing, and it became like a really cool prop for the photo shoot for my newborn. So we have this. If you guys are wondering. Yeah.
It is so cute. Delisa's head almost exploded when she saw that.
Oh, really?
I showed her on Instagram. She's like, ah!
Ah, yeah, this is a mini Q2. It works. Like, it's kind of... Yeah, so for those of you folks like, oh, my hands are too big or whatever, my hands... This is like the span of my hand. This entire ukulele is the span of my hand. And for those people like, oh, my hands are too small, of course, we have like the baritone ukulele. So like that would be the same in comparison. Like if I'm playing an ukulele, some people are like, oh, my hands are too small. So I always use those as an example of like, no, it's not. It's just how you hold it, how you approach the ukulele. That's what's gonna get you playing your uke. So. But yeah, thanks so much. My second child, her name is Sophie Junko Guerrero, and she was born last week Thursday. So I've not had sleep since Thursday. But I'll be back in the office by next week. So for those people who are like, oh man, does that mean we're gonna get more of these like home jams and home home office podcasts and stuff? Just I'll go back. It's fine. I'll go to the office and do my job, I guess. But it's been cool. Like there's lots of similarities between Kid 1 and Kid 2, but there's also like some differences. Of course, each kid is going to be different, and I don't know. It's fun. I kind of miss that stage of them just being so tiny and you can carry them with one hand, and they weigh like nothing. She's like 6 pounds or like 7 pounds or something. So it's just like,
can't run away.
This, yeah, and I'm like, we have, well, not we, but Abe Lagrimas, who lives on Oahu now. Like Ukulele was actually visiting over on Oahu because they're doing some I don't know if I can say what they're doing, but they're shooting some stuff with of course Cynthia and whatever, they're a band together. So I have been giving Mario Kart lessons to Ukulele and Abe Lagrimas. So they're hitting me up at like 1 o'clock at night. They're like, we know you're up. You want to play some Mario Kart? I'm like, heck yeah! So I'm carrying the kid with one hand. You know, I'm like, like I'm playing Mario Kart while holding the kid. If the kid like kind of like fusses a little bit, I'm just doing this while I'm still drifting on one side, still winning, of course. You know, still holding that crown.
Hopefully the rumble function just. Dude,
but it's been good. I've been jamming some Mario Kart with them, and I've also been jamming some Mario Kart with Sammy. I don't want to say his last name wrong. Thurton. He's from the UK. Amazing ukulele player. If you guys have not heard of him, 4-String Boy is his username on Instagram, and I believe it's the same on Reddit and YouTube. Amazing at that like artificial harmonics kind of stuff. I mean, he's good at everything, but that's, I feel like one of his specialties. Cool dude. We've been playing some Mario Kart lately. It's yeah. So let's make it relate to ukulele. There's some ukulele players that also play Mario Kart, and so I'm up at like 1-2 in the morning because like the kid's up and I'm up, right? So they're just like, hey, we know you're not doing anything right now. They just, I'm like, what do you mean? I'm being a dad. Like, yeah, we have one hand free. It's fine.
But it means you're up. That's the key. Is like, but it means you're up. We know this.
Yeah, we know you're up. You can play, and like they welcome any handicap that they can get.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like, if anybody's played with you on Mario Kart, it's like, yeah, maybe you should have a second child so you have both hands full, right? And you're only playing
carry
with
Ellie in one hand, and then my second child in the other hand.
Yeah.
All right, so now that we kind of got everything established, Mike Odo is here. We're still doing this podcast. What we do in this podcast is we answer any and all of your questions. This is a live podcast. So for those of you folks watching, you can definitely type up your some questions for us if you guys want to ask us anything ukulele-wise or Mario Kart-wise or anything really. It's an AMA live Ask Me Anything session here at Ukulele Underground. We just like to just chat and kind of get to know you folks to kind of help you guys get unstuck with whatever problems you may have with the ukulele. And this is available to everyone. It's not just a UU Plus thing. Everybody can do so. And we also answer any and all questions that we get via email, or we have a we even have a hotline that you can call and leave a message if you want to do that. If you want your voice to be featured on the podcast, you can do that. Yeah. Do you think we could take like video questions, Kahai? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
If people are comfortable with sending us a video, it's like, hey guys, I've been having a hard time with this. Like I would actually prefer that, so I can see what's going on, what the problem is.
Yeah, we used to do that too. So yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys want to send us video questions, we can do that as well. Not today, obviously, but like if you guys want to do that in the future, we can definitely do something like that. So with that said, I'm gonna let you guys start, typing out your questions. But I've got a question for Mr. Mike Odo. Mr. Mike Odo.
Okay.
It is the new year. I'm so happy that you're here. It is 2023. Please, the ukulele people want to know, because you work at an ukulele store, what was some of the highlights of Ukulele Retail of last year, of 2022? And what are you looking forward to 2023?
Let's see. Okay, so...
And why is it the 25th anniversary model?
Bro, I'm getting to that.
Okay. Do your thing.
So last year, I did sell 2 things that I didn't think we were necessarily going to, which would be both 2021 and 22's platinum same year.
Ooh. It gets for those people who don't know, Kanilea has a platinum series, so they only make a certain amount of those, and it's different every year. So go ahead.
Basically, Joe has a fever dream, and then whatever he hallucinates, he built it. And so we had the 21, and we didn't sell it in 21, and then some guy came in January on a cruise ship, and he was really looking for it, and he really thought about it, but then he left because when you're on the cruise ship, you're here for like 5 hours and you gotta go.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh well, maybe I'll see you guys, at the end of the year if it's still here." And then he came back in like 2 months. There was like a good deal on it, so he took another cruise, and then he came in still there. He said, "I went to another famous ukulele place, and
Yeah.
He wanted a specific ukulele, and he said, "Okay, I'll pay you right now." Blah 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 blah. And I want that one right there. And he said, "Oh no, that's a display model. You can't have that." And so they just they said it'll take like 6 months to build it for you. He's like, "No, I want it now." So then so then when he came over here, he said,
Yeah.
"Where's that platinum? I want to buy it." And then a few months later, the 2022 one, that beautiful one with the waterfall, and guy comes in and says, "I've never played ukulele before, and I think I'd like to try." And out of all the ukuleles he could choose, he chose the 2022 platinum.
Dang, that's an expensive try.
For his first. And he's like, well, I was like, okay, so you play? And he said, like, yeah, I'm a studio drummer from back where I come from.
Okay, all right.
And he plays professionally. And and I was like, okay, just so you aware, we're getting into some pretty, high cost here. I don't like sticker shocking my customers.
Right.
He said, no. And he points to his hat. It says Martin Owner's Company. He says, my main guitar is a Martin Custom OM28. Cost me $11,000. I'm like going, okay, well, I guess this is within your price range.
But he's got scripts for the fair.
Man, he's got them tickets on that card.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't actually know, the 2022 Platinum costs $6,500.
Whoa.
And then he wanted a pickup.
Yeah.
So then we had to ship it back to Kanilea.
Okay.
And then they shipped it to him in his home state. But
okay.
And then so those were two other interesting things. I had the infamous Mark Zuckerberg come in and bought.
Are you okay to disclose this stuff? This sale?
I don't think this is part of Meta, so I think we're okay.
Oh, okay.
No, he actually it might have been his sister, because it had the same last name on the caller ID, but it wasn't his first name.
Okay.
But anyway, came in and Delisa, my boss Delisa, was kind of like, do you think it's in? I was like, I don't know. It's not that. But sure enough, pulls up in this very big lifted Rancho F-150 deal.
Okay.
And they just are like, hey, we want to make like this random like acoustic cover band. Mm-hmm. So we need all this stuff. And they bought like 2 Taylor guitars and some amps and a PA and a piano and a drum set.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, he came in the store, who bought from you?
He came with the girl, and I guess maybe her husband. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, he came in.
Wow.
And I will say this, I do tell this to everybody, like, as much controversy surrounds his public image.
Yeah.
In person, he's actually always been very nice. I've met him several times now. He's never come into any of the stores I worked at with an attitude or I'm super rich, so you must treat me even better.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get that, thankfully, right? I'm always afraid when people who have, but thankfully, at least on Kauai, it doesn't tend to happen. Mm-hmm. Anybody has any notoriety here on Kauai, thankfully, I think the island does something to them and mellows them out.
Yeah. Or
they're like you, who are from the island, so you don't even have that. You don't even start with that type of attitude.
I don't.
No, I want you.
I have the opposite attitude.
Aldrine comes into this store. He has never, and we know you know who I'm talking to right now, Aldrine. He has never asked for a discount, never tried to throw his weight around, and has always been nice enough. If he comes in the store and he has time, if someone's trying out an ukulele, I said, hey, can you show something on this? They can see what it sounds like. He has always done it with, very gracefully. And we really appreciate that. We really appreciate that.
You're like the best. You need a big clock around your neck, and you should just be around me all the time. Yeah, gold teeth. You just be around me all the time. It's Aldrine, y'all. You're my best hype man. Thank you, Mike.
I'm telling you, next time you do an actual concert, you just hire me to introduce you guys. That's how it started. But yeah, I think those are some of probably the most interesting things. Obviously, last year, Aldrine, the store I work at was sold to a new owner, who was actually my new boss. Actually, used to work with me at the store as a manager there for many long time. She is actually my cousin. So family, it's wonderful. Her whole family's musical. You have seen her daughter on here on Ukulele Underground.
Mhm.
If you've watched the video for Sign of the Times and Hallelujah, the lovely young lady who was singing is my boss's daughter.
Yeah.
So it's awesome working with family now
Mhm.
too,
Mhm.
and we all get along really really well, and
Oh,
so that
good,
was
good,
also a
good.
big thing. But as far as sales go, those are probably the ones that stick out, selling the platinums, because
Mhm.
that's a, I mean that's a lot of money right there to
Yeah.
drop on one thing, and yeah, Zuckerberg coming in and just deciding
Just
like,
buying
hey,
up the place.
I want this, I want all these things,
Yeah.
you
How
know.
much for the store?
I mean, it would be that to him to buy even all that. Interestingly, and then like I was saying, he's
Mm,
actually fairly like he's not demanding. So the
yeah.
interesting part was we were out of microphone stands. He bought microphones.
Mm, mm,
We were out of microphone stands, and the
yeah.
only microphone stands we had in the store were those giant ones on. You remember you see it like the choir looking ones. They were on like
Okay.
four wheels, and you could wheel them around, and so they're
Oh,
giant.
jeez. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which are like studio, like a studio setup
Yeah,
mic.
yeah.
And it's like, oh, that works. Well, I'll just buy both of those. I'm like going, I mean, okay, they're you know, which is interesting because it's basically equivalent of like, hey, I need new tires on my bike. Let me
Mhm,
put
mhm.
monster truck tires on it. But he did it, and then and that's kind of shows, I mean, obviously for him, money is not really a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
So he just gets whatever he wants, and
Mhm.
just get that. It works. But
Ah.
the fact that he was never like demanding or like got about it when we didn't
Mhm,
have exactly what he was
mhm,
looking
mhm.
for was very nice. We appreciate it.
The
Nice.
next time I
Thank
go
you.
into the store, I'm gonna be like, I want that, and you better get it for me, Mike. And
You know who
where's
I
where's
am. I'm my
where's
old
my
fan club.
I'm the
discount? Where's
legend.
my discount? Yeah.
Where's my discount?
I'm gonna make sure if you ever walk into my store, I'm gonna go, holy crap, it's the legend.
You guys don't
First
know
thing
this
I'm gonna
guy?
say.
You
To every customer in the store,
Do
but
you
like,
know
you guys
who
know?
this?
Do you know who
You
this is?
you know how
the best. The
I
funniest
always
part would be
walk.
if you have Ukulele Underground people and they'll just recognize you from your voice.
Yeah. You know how I always walk with my chest out high and like I walk down the street like I own it, right? Like, yeah, that's totally me. That is me.
That's
Yeah, I mean, I've never met anybody who exudes more confidence than than Guy Forkin.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so Kahai, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah. Yeah. We have a few. So,
Okay, cool. Let's
uh,
go.
one of the Jaden asks, "What do you think about the Tahitian ukulele?"
Oh, we got this question before. I've had some experience with Tahitian ukuleles. I think they're fun. You kind of have to play it like a specific way to make it sound, like the way that it's supposed to sound. You kind of have to have like a really fast strumming hand. Um, it's a little too high for me, and I'm just not. My ear is just not hearing that kind of tone coming out of out of an ukulele. But when it's used well, when it's used correctly, when it's used in the right setting, for example, like Tahitian music, like if you're playing for a for I don't know what they call like a halau in Tahitian, but like if it's a
dance
yeah,
troupe.
if it's a group, yeah, if it's a dance group and they're doing that, it really works because like the fast strumming kind of goes hand in hand with like the fast hip movement of Tahitian dancing. So it's really cool. And then like I've seen it pair with like the poi balls and whatnot. It's really fun, but just not something that I'm used to. I like it, like I said, but it in the right context. I don't personally own one. But I think they're interesting. I think they're fun. I think they're their own thing.
Yeah. For
I
someone
think an
who might
interesting
not
part about
know,
that. Yeah.
can you explain what a Tahitian ukulele even is? What's the
Okay,
differences between it and a regular
a Tahitian ukulele is a little bit, the body's a little bit skinnier, and I believe most of them are made out of like a single like cut of wood to really get that sound, that really teeny, very like very bright projecting kind of sound to it. The ones that I've played at least have been kind of like doubled up strings, so they're an 8 string ukulele. If you guys are familiar with 8 string ukes, they're just like the GCEA, but then they're just their tune, I guess, either doubled or in different octaves to just give it a fuller sound. It's the same thing, but I think the I don't exactly know what the tuning is on a Tahitian ukulele, but it's kind of like the My Dog Has Fleas, but just super duper high. I think the chords, from what I've experienced, I don't know if it's just the one that I've played, but they share similar shapes to the ukulele, but it's just that kind of signature tinny high sound that it has that really makes it, and the shape or the build of the ukulele, it being kind of a one piece. It's cool.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you think, Mike? You've seen those.
Oh, plenty. It's interesting because I hear them referred to as two different ways. Because like half the people I know refer to them as Tahitian ukuleles, and then actually some people refer to them as Tahitian banjos. And I'm not sure what the difference is. Although seeing a lot of Tahitian ukuleles, they're actually built in such a way that actually reminds me more of a banjo. In that you're right that the body and the neck is one piece, and then they hollow it out here and they put a plate over the top of it, which actually is more banjo than ukulele. Because that round piece in the middle is not attached to the body, you know. Some people do it differently, where they just hollow it out from the back. Although I can imagine that's got to be difficult. I think it is similar to maybe like the idea between the baritone and the standard uke, where it's the same scheme going upwards, but it's just you start on a higher note, and that might be it. Also, keep in mind that we always make the joke about using fishing line for your ukulele strings. It's not a joke with the Tahitian ukuleles.
Yeah,
I mean, they literally are using fishing line, you know. And a couple of differences. I think only one of the Tahitian banjo strings is a low-high pair. Everything else is a high-high. Like on an 8-string uke, it's a high-low G, and then high-low C, and then high-high E and A. And I think on the Tahitian one, it's high and high G, high low C, and then high E and E. Although you're right that the notes might be different.
Yeah. So,
it's
but
cool.
The shapes,
cool
chord shapes, pretty much share the same thing. You can play
just like I said, like a baritone and a uke. The shapes are the same. You just got to remember the actual chords that are now emerging from the instrument are going to be different. The strings are different. The strings are tuned differently. Yeah, outside of a Tahitian band, I don't know how much use there is for them, but in a Tahitian group, they're pretty essential.
Yeah. They cut through because there's a lot of drums, like in Tahitian music and stuff. So it's pretty important to cut through all that. So you got a nice really high bright instrument to cut through. It's cool. I haven't really seen anybody take it, say, you don't have to tune, or you don't have to string up all 8 strings on an ukulele, for example. You can just string up 4 and then play it like a regular ukulele, like a regular 4-string anyway. I've never really seen. I don't know if this exists and stuff, and if it does, I want people to show me. Comments, I guess, right? That's what YouTubers do in the comments.
Send us a video.
Yeah, send us a video. Of somebody maybe just doing 4 or 5 strings and maybe playing it in a more in a more modern way, or in a more an ukulele or a guitar kind of approach to it. I would be interested in something like that, or even mandolin.
I wonder if part of the reason you don't see that very often is that body shape, that body chamber is really small. I wonder without 8 strings, I wonder how quiet it might be. It might end up being crazy quiet because there's just not enough vibration to drive the body with that. Because those strings also do not have a lot of tension. I mean, even the tune up real high, they don't have a lot of tension. They're flexible as you can pull them a lot.
Pretty thin strings.
Yeah, so maybe they just don't have enough force to generate a lot of sound individually. Which is also why people don't tend to pick a lot either.
Yeah. If somebody's playing for a audience, a big audience, and they need don't they usually add a pickup to it so it has that projection? Because without it, it can't really get out as much as say an acoustic ukulele, right?
I mean, pickups, yeah. I don't know how many people actually have the body shape of that also makes it difficult to install certain kind because you can't do an undersaddle pickup because it's a
No.
floating bridge.
Mm.
So
But
the only thing you could do would be like a contact type pickup.
hmm
Uh, I think most Tahitian groups I see just put a mic right up to it,
yeah.
you know, and just do it that way. But yeah, on an acoustic level, no, you'd probably have to amplify it somehow. Otherwise, you'd probably get drowned out.
Mm.
Yeah.
Or you'd have to tell the drummers to play softer. But I think anybody's ever been in a band knows that never happens. So
Don't get me started with those bass players.
oh my gosh, they're terrible.
All right, Kai. Any other questions?
Yeah. So Michael asked if you have thoughts on, or he actually said, "What's up with the high gloss finish?" And then he added, like I asked him if he had anything particular about the high gloss finish he wanted to ask, and he said, "Why not matte? High gloss tends to reflect everything, and I for one look at all the stuff around you, not the ukulele and its beauty. Why that finish?"
I mean, you got okay. We were talking about Kanilea earlier, and Kanilea has like just some of the most beautiful cuts of wood that I've ever seen in my life. If you were to do a matte finish in that, it just wouldn't give it like it's flowers really, like it's not going to do it any justice. You want that nice high gloss to really really bring out all the different colors, all the shades of orange and brown and white and it's in yellows and in the in koa, because koa especially with the koa ukuleles, it really highlights all of that. And with high gloss and the way that they do their UV, it's actually not, doesn't do much to the sound because the layer is so thin. But then you still get that really high gloss just by looking at it from a different angle. If you took say this ukulele and just kind of shifted the angle like this, you can see like all the different shades kind of changing shape, because it's every piece of cut wood is going to be different, and this high gloss is just a nice way of showing that off. Okay. I usually like a matte finish on something like this where it's doesn't really have like the curls on it or anything like that, and it's just nice. And you want a nice natural look to the ukulele, but really it's an aesthetic thing. Like if you're spending some money on a nice master grade cut koa, here's a really good example because it's a big surface. So this is my GL6, and like all those all these curls that's going on the horizontal lines here of this ukulele, and there's another one. You wouldn't really be seeing all of that if it was a matte finish. Or even a silk finish, like as we've done with Kanilea. But matte does have a good sound to it, because it's not like I mean, it's a little bit of finish that's on top. It's not completely natural or anything, but it gives it more of a projection because there's nothing on top of the wood, so it rings out a lot truer. But man, you just can't beat like looking at a nice high gloss master grade koa ukulele. It's just there's no comparison.
I often describe it as 3D.
Yeah.
Good koa under a gloss almost looks like Magic Eye 3D.
Yeah.
You turn
Yeah.
it seems like it's moving
Yeah.
in there. Yeah, I mean, with the store, people often ask that question. I usually equate it to like just a balance of things. A gloss finish to me does have a more compacted sound because the finish is heavier, but you are also gaining more protection from it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
protecting
true.
your instrument better.
Yeah.
A satin finish it does allow the ukulele to vibrate more and it's a freer sound, but it's a thinner finish, which means you have to, just be mindful you're not dinging the thing up everywhere.
Yeah.
If you do get something like this guy's collection of ukuleles, yeah, you should probably get gloss finish on most of them, because it's the way it's going to sound the best. I mean, look the best too. And no matter what people want to say, aesthetics is part of it.
Yeah.
You can have the greatest sounding instrument in the world, but if it's ugly, you ain't gonna want to play it. So, and really too, if you have a high gloss finish of any sort, if you play the thing a lot over time, it's going to gain that looseness as the wood fibers and the finish kind of like microscopically crack is the way I describe it. Like it puts cracks in it, just not the kind you can see or the kind that would endanger the health of the instrument. But then as it frees up, the instrument starts to open up more. It just takes longer with the high gloss than a satin finish, but they still can get to the same place.
Yeah.
There you go.
We saw Jody, right? Jody has the same Olakaina uke that you do. You have at Ukulele, and then his one is like you can kind of tell it's been used because it's like worn down. And then so like that's the thing too, is that like with a high gloss finish, right? Like if you play it and you use it, and it's probably gonna get scratches, get maybe some dings and stuff. You could even possibly like send it to Kanile and they can refinish it, right? But then with like a matte finish, once it gets to that point, it's kind of like we can kind of fix it up, but it's like it's touching wood at this point, so it's affecting the wood. So there's not like we can't just replace it or do anything. So that's the thing too. Like Mike said, it's like a little bit more protection for your uke too. If you're thinking about like long term, maybe like if you're gonna pass it down to family members, and it'll probably hold up a little bit better.
Although from a long-term perspective too, be mindful if you choose to ever refinish an instrument, especially if you have held onto your instrument long enough to get it to like what they would consider the vintage stage. Because if you have a really old vintage instrument and you do a refinish on it, that severely affects the value of that instrument. If we're thinking about in those type of terms, if you were to get like, well, and the thing is, like, you start all over again. If you've broken down that finish to the point where it's nice and open and but it's starting to get nasty, so you decide, we'll just refinish it. You're starting all the way back to square one with that finish is now going to be solid and constrictive. As constrictive is not a great word, but you guys get what I mean. And it's going to be that again, and then you're going to have to go through that whole process of playing. Meanwhile, if you buy a vintage instrument, like say if you buy like a gold label Kamaka or something like that, if you send it off to Kamaka and you tell them refinish thing, they'll do it. But if you just paid say like $5,000 for it and you go have it refinished, guess what? It's now worth like 35. Because of that. That's also why we tell people when people bring vintage instruments into our store, said, well, I want to make it work, so I got to change the tuners. Said, well, okay, but if you do that, number one, try not to drill new holes, and two, save all the old tuners. Put them in a plastic bag, just leave it in the case. Because if you ever sell the thing, someone's going to ask you those questions. And weirdly enough, a lot of collectors won't even care. Like you tell them, well, I replaced the tuners because they don't work anymore. They're broken. It's like, but do you have them? That's all they care about. Do you have them? It's like, no, I don't have it. Oh, well, I was going to offer you X. Now we're just let's take 25% off that because you don't have the original tuners.
Yeah, the tuners are like hundreds of dollars.
Certain people's in here's tuners are worth hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
Some of us have the $29.95 special.
I didn't mean it that way, but I guess so. Oh, whoa, hey, don't call me out.
Weirdly enough, too, I had a guitar player who was in the store just the other day, who was a very experienced guitarist.
Yeah.
He saw your ukulele and it's like, those are Gilbert's, huh?
Yeah.
Like, those are Gilbert tuners. It's like, I didn't know they make ukulele tuners. It's like, they don't.
They don't. You should have said I had to actually shave it. To.
Oh no, I did tell them
to retrofit it.
He asked us like, well, how do they fit it? It's like a grinding wheel and a lot of precision. And he's like, and he looked at me like, you did what? I said, yeah, the plastic shaft is just too long, so we got to put it on the grinding wheel. And he's like, I don't think I could do that. And so like,
well,
if you want them on an ukulele, you're gonna have to.
I guess you just don't have the testicular fortitude that Mike Otto has.
If you had the confidence of Kahai the Legend Fergus.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
To be able to walk into a room.
Yeah, them being bags.
I want
All
the
right.
It's
high
interesting that he
gloss
recognized your tuners
finish.
from that, though.
Super UV, SUV gloss. Super UV.
I want the gloss finish on the fretboards itself too. Like I want it all over. I want it everywhere.
What do you mean these strings aren't glossy?
Yeah.
The whole thing glossed up.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I
I'm not
think
playing it. I'm not playing it.
that would be interesting to see, like just as a random like
Yeah.
experiment. So now you have gloss finish,
Yeah.
and then you have the matte finish, which takes away a lot of that shine.
Mm.
I wonder what you'd have to do to make it like ultra gloss finish, and make it. And what if you, like if you could make like a ukulele that had finish that was twice as reflective,
Mm.
Yeah.
and it would just blind everybody that looked at you.
mirror like. It's like even the inside is glossy. The ukulele. Look inside the ukulele. I was like, oh snap! Look how glossy
How
that
did you
is.
spray that? Well, we didn't. We actually went with the dunk technique.
We just dumped the whole thing. All right. So, is there any other
Finish
questions,
and everything.
guy?
Tuners were on and everything.
Yeah, questions, buddy.
So Andre said, I love medleys. What tips do you have for putting 2 or more songs together into a medley or mashup? Transpose chords. Is it possible to find suitable songs for medleys and co-recognize? Yeah.
Okay. So for medleys and stuff, there's some things to consider. Of course, like not too high in jump of as far as keys goes. Like preferably they're the same key or maybe just a step up or down is ideal. So the actual switch up to the next song in a medley is not so jarring. And for those people who are wondering, a medley is like 2 or more songs like put together and presented as one like really long tune. Like, yeah, okay. So to transition from one to another, ideally like same key or at least one or one step higher or one step lower is as far as I'd go. Another thing is to consider the style. You know what I mean. You're not and consider the tempo, not the tempo, but the time signature. So you don't have like a waltz song that's gonna go into like a 4/4. Although you can do that, it's just a little bit it's just a little bit tougher and tougher for the audience to kind of switch their brains to go from one to another. Unless you're really good. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's super interesting, but. Another one too is like considering the style. Like you're not gonna be playing one reggae song, for one song of the medley, and then like once again like a waltz song, like waltz and reggae, like 2 of them just don't necessarily match that well. So 2 kind of matching time signatures or 2 matching song styles is also ideal. Tempo is another thing to consider, although that's not that difficult, but I think the transition will just go smoother. But basically what I'm trying to say here is try to make the transitions smoother as similar as possible so that it goes from one to another. Kind of like how when to give you guys an example, when Iz did Somewhere Over the Rainbow and What a Wonderful World, he kept the same kind of strumming, so that style is the same. He took 2 songs that were relatively slow, and kind of gave it that nice chunka treatment to it, and it turned out wonderful. They're both in the key of C, so going from one to another and then back again. So you went from Somewhere Over the Rainbow to What a Wonderful World and back. It was a smooth transition. And some people just think it's one song, but it's actually 2 songs like put together. So that's what makes a good medley. Is the song kind of sounding as if it's so cohesive that it sounds just like one song. All right. That's that's it, but be creative. I mean, these are just basic guidelines, but I've seen people do some crazy stuff with medleys. So just be creative. Mike.
I have similar thoughts on that. There's a couple of things. I start with thematic things. So for example, like I tend to think like try not to, if you're going to put medley. So actually we should also define 2 things. Medley is where you go from one song to another song without stopping. Mashup is where you try and actually put both songs together kind of at the same time. So there's a little bit of different rules for, say, a mashup because of that. But I try to think thematically first. Like when I would be playing more frequently, and we're trying to do medleys, we're trying to like, okay, so let's think of either two songs that are very similar in the subject or very opposite in the subject. Because if you want to talk about a love song, then you write a love song. You pick a love song, then maybe pick maybe a love song with a guy singing to a girl, then a girl singing to a guy. My partner at the time was a girl, so they kind of worked that way. Or you could think of it in terms of opposite, meaning like the guy you sing a love song, and the girl sings a song about how the guy is not actually everything he says he is, and he was like kind of a jerk or something like that. And something like that often, although that type of thematic back and forth works better in a mashup, meaning the guy can sing two lines about how he loves the girl so much, and the girl can sing two lines about, well, then why did you do all this and this and this? When it comes to like the technical parts of the music, it kind of depends. Yeah, if the two songs are really disparate keys, I would just either figure out which one works and move one to the other, or maybe, but sing both, because obviously if you sing this one really well in this key and this one, you should sing this song in that key too, because you don't want this to end up being like, you might think it works, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now all of a sudden all the notes are too high or too low in the second song. So maybe meeting in the middle will actually work. That way neither song ends up being really too high or really too low. And if you're going to change keys, like you said, don't go too far, because something really jarring like that, something super jarring like that, just the listeners just go, if you see them doing too much of that, you've probably done it wrong.
You know what is a medley that like people don't realize a medley is actually Drop Baby Drop. Like the Who Loves You, like Pretty Baby, that part is a completely different song, and from the drop, from Drop Baby Drop, So it's like that is a medley that nobody really. Huh?
I didn't know that either for the longest time. No, I mean, so that song came out, I think, like around the time I was in high school.
Right.
And I didn't, outside of the super obviously like Sherry and Walk Like a Man, I had no clue about like Frankie Valli until later. Like I was probably in my 20s when I actually started to listen to the rest of his catalog.
Yeah.
Prior to maybe being about 27 or 28, Frankie Valli was 3 songs. It was Walk Like a Man, Sherry, and Oh What a Night. The only ones I knew. And then I listened to, and I got a best of, and Who Loves You Baby was on that, and I was like, hey, I know this word. I know this word, because the style is very different.
Yeah.
How do I know these words? Which is something that's interesting too, that you can try with people. If you take a song that's really well known in a certain style, and then you play it in another style successfully, because you can fail. So if you do it successfully, you'll give the whole audience like this weird dissonance in their head of like, I know this song, but I don't know this song.
Yeah.
Why? and then once they figure it out, then they actually like it even more.
Yeah. There's one where that we do live. It's like that Jamaica by Led Zeppelin, and then and Amber, because they're both in C, So like but it's how Amber's supposed to sound like, which sounds like whoa, amber is the color of your energy. Whoa, shades of gold displayed naturally. So that's how Amber goes, and Jamaica goes, oh, 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 oh. You don't have to go. Oh, and you can kind of see like it's the same kind of same feel, but it's different chords. But what we did was we used like the same kind of we used the same chords, but just went into Amber. So it goes, oh, 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 oh. You don't have to go. Oh, 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 oh. Whoa, Amber is the color of your energy. Whoa, shades of gold displayed naturally. Which is like, it's taking the stylings of one, using the kind of lyrics from another, and having it not as a matchup, but medley, like to from one song to another.
Yeah.
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 Actually, I thought of a very good example of that.
What's that?
Um, sorry, Kahai. So here's one for the list. You want to look at the band Pomplamoose?
Yeah, Papamoose.
And they did a medley of Seven Nation Army and oh, Sweet Dreams Are Made of the that song.
Mm-hmm.
And what they actually do is when they sing the melody of Sweet Dreams, they're playing the background of Seven Nation Army. And then when they're singing the lyrics to Seven Nation Army, they're playing the background of Sweet Dreams.
Cool.
And it works so good because that basic of like do is that four on the floor behind everything. And anybody who wants to see a way to make an interesting mashup work well, that's a great song for that.
Yeah.
Because, man, the first time I heard it, I was like, that's the way this should go.
But yeah, those are some great examples. I think the Somewhere Over the Rainbow one is the one that everyone should be familiar with. Like everyone is watching the show has at least heard that song like one time, maybe, you know. I'm assuming,
1 million
right?
times.
But
I mean,
yeah,
that song has stretched out so far beyond the realm of Hawaii that, you know, just the fact, if you think about just like all the Hollywood movies that song has been in, that are just like no ties to Hawaii at all. Like it was in Micho Black, I think, the one where Brad Pitt's like death.
Yeah.
And then there was in Finding Forrester too. Sean Connery, and I was like, neither of those movies had anything to do with Hawaii at all. Nothing. So it was like, even with that, even someone who wouldn't necessarily like dig a movie about life on the islands or something like that, they still went with that. You know, they would know that stuff.
Yeah.
I think when you're making a mashup or a medley, I think one of the important things is to like, is your goal for people to recognize the song, or is your goal for it to like slip in and be unrecognizable? Because me and Aaron and a few of our friends, we actually have like a group where we mash up songs and we send it to each other. And then like that too, we do it in a way where it's like we're throwing it out there and it's just like, we're just having fun, and it sounds weird sometimes, or it sounds like something totally different, but it's almost like to make each other laugh, right? Like, so you're listening to the song. Like one of the things we did was we tried to include like the Hello Kitty theme from like the cartoon from like the 80s, I think. And then so what Aaron did was like he remixed that theme with like, you know, Doja Cat song and then Thundercat and like just all these different cat themes. And then I remixed it with like a J-pop song too, you know. And then so it's like when we're like playing it for our friends and then we're looking, and it's like when that theme comes on, then you can just see them and we all just start laughing, you know. So that is a thing too. Like, what is your goal at the end of the day? Is it to make it something different, or to make it like where it's you can play the song and people will be like, oh, I know that song, you know? So, because if you're like another example that I like you said like, oh, it's hard to do 4/4 into like a different time signature or something. This isn't a mashup or a medley or anything, but Alan Stone does Is This Love in 3/4 as like blues, and Is This Love is originally like a reggae song too. So you can do, I think you can do pretty much anything. Probably the hardest thing is like changing something with like a completely different tempo or feel, you know, BPM. So I think the BPM is like where you should look at. And there's actually a site called TuneBat where you can look up songs that have like similar BPM or similar feels. And like when I do mashups and stuff, actually like if I have to change the key to like something totally different, sometimes that works better than trying to keep it like exactly the same. And then sometimes you just have to adjust it by like 1 or 2, and it's like not exactly in the same key, but you'll get there. So I think BPM is like the main thing to look out for.
Yeah, but you can play the song, like a slow song, and play it in the same BPM as like the song before. So not even that. Like, so really there isn't any, I mean, if you're creative, and that's what I was trying to say, like if you're creative enough, like anything is possible.
Yeah.
Like I think, you know, with Like with Is This Love, like you're talking about with the 3/4. I mean, the like Alan Stone's version of Is This Love is like a lot slower BPM wise. Not talking about the time signature at this point. BPM wise, a lot slower because he turns it into a super slow jam, So like the BPM goes all the way down, and I mean I know that one's not a medley or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure you could mix that into another like 6-8 song. Like you could do an Is This Love to like to what was that Alicia Keys song, like
If I Ain't Got You.
Falling.
If I Ain't Got You,
Or-
no, If I Ain't Got You, you can do one to the other, which would match. I think so, and I think that
if
kind
you're
of
subdividing, you could definitely do something like that, where the beat, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Because I've even seen like a reggae version. I know it's gonna sound jarring to you, Mike, but there is a reggae version of Take 5, which is no longer
I've
five.
heard this.
It's actually
I've heard
super
it.
fun.
I think you played it.
Yeah, it's super fun. Like it's
It was interesting because it's a 5, it's not a 4. 5, it's a 5 and a 4.
Take 4.
Take 4.
Take 4,
Yeah.
which is what I
4.5.
usually take.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And even like
yeah.
I was gonna say like even like kind of old school hip hop, or like they do it now still, but they'll go digging in record crates, right? And they find like just old records that are in totally like they are in like 5/4 or different time signatures or whatever, and they just take a section of it, and because they just take that section and use that as a sample, they can really do anything. So it's kind of what your goal is. Like, do you want it to sound like the song, or do you want it to make it your own? So
yeah, it's just
far as
you're
the
limited to
BPM
how
thing
creative
goes,
you are.
Yeah. As far as the BPM thing goes, they actually think about DJs too, because if they would throw a record on and someone was trying to maybe rap over it or something like that, then they would just change the speed of the turntable. And that would change a lot of things. Or I knew some guys who would just drag their finger on it to slow it down. Not so much like they just leave their finger like on the label and it slows the record down. Not so much to the point where, because obviously record players only play at so many different speeds. So I mean, if you want to get like in the middle of it, you could do that and just slow it down. But
that's like a pretty old school way of doing it. I'm pretty sure like the new modern DJs, because I think you can just take like an MP3 or like some kind of file, and you can just go boop 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 BPM this and whatever. It'll be like perfectly aligned with another song, right? I'm not a DJ, but I'm guessing.
I'm an old dude.
150. There you go.
yeah, like I remixed a song from the Goofy movie with Ariana Grande song, and it worked surprisingly well. So it really is just it's a song that it's
listen to each other's hearts. That one?
No, it's the one they're on the road and they're
Goofy and his son doing the on the road again or whatever, right?
Yeah, I'll send you my remix, and it's
that's
like,
awesome. I love that. Love that, dude. That whole movie, like, really, really bangs a lot harder than it should. Like that soundtrack is a banger, man. It slaps super hard. I think that's what the kids are saying nowadays, right? That that soundtrack slaps. Yeah. Okay. Can we do one more? You guys want to do one more?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think this is from Void, and they ask, do you have any tips for playing flamenco on the uke?
Well, first off, like, you can basically look up any tutorial of like flamenco technique, like for guitar, and that should kind of translate over to the ukulele. You might need to adjust it a little bit, but most of that stuff will translate. One of the most essential things, of course, is the roll. Like, you kind of have to learn how to do a proper roll or rasguedo in flamenco, kind of in flamenco terms. But that's it. I mean, like, with learning any style, first, like, kind of get to know that style and what defines that that style. So listen to a bunch of flamenco, listen to Paco de Lucia, listen like Otmar Lieber, like all these amazing flamenco artists and kind of get an idea for the feel of of flamenco, for the sound that they make, for the rhythms that that flamenco does, and then look up tutorials online if there's any kind of like specific techniques that flamencos do. Like I said, the rasquedo, like get those, like those kind of like finger picking, two finger, three finger kind of picking that they do. And yeah, basically just try to recreate some classics, classic flamenco songs, and you'll kind of find your own way there, because it's nice to just like carbon copy like flamenco from guitar over to ukulele, but I think if you're going to be doing flamenco on ukulele, you still want those ukulele is like essential elements in there as well. So just to to kind of just take it and translate it over, I think is what you should do. And what I mean by that is translate, like make it for ukulele and not just like do the same exact thing that you would do for the guitar. Some suggestions. I like Barcelona Nights is a classic one. It's a classic flamenco song. I like Samba por Allí is another fun one. I play that a lot. But yeah, just immerse yourself in flamenco, and then really know what defines it, or learn or figure out what defines it for you, what defines flamenco, and yeah, and go from there. I think you need to install some ukulele into that flamenco. What do you think, Mike?
I mean, absolutely. It also depends too on what kind of flamenco you're talking about too. There's two very specific schools, which is like,
no, we were so close to the end, everybody. Okay, here, say it again, Mike. We cut off a little bit.
Well, there's like two. Like, you just think traditional flamenco,
yeah,
which is like really old school guys, and then the newer school, which is Paco de Lucia. I guess now it's not that new school because it's like the 70s, but
yeah,
it's important, I think, though, to do what you're thinking. Go and listen to the old school stuff first.
Yeah.
Get that foundation in what they were doing stylistically. There's going to be a lot of things for you. Like, I know when you do some of the stuff like note displacement, because of the reentrant tuning, you have to think about some stuff like that. And that makes it in more of an ukulele thing to note do some of the displacements. So that's kind of an important thing. But I think the most important thing you said, which is absolutely true, is listen. Buy a bunch of albums. Listen. If I were to throw another name in there, and I love Paco de Lucia, he is like, to me, he's the pinnacle of what that could be. His guitar trio with Al Di Meola and John McLaughlin was absolutely amazing. Watch Mediterranean Sundance with those three guys. Yeah, it's like three guys who are like shooting nuclear weapons at each other with three guitars.
Also Sabicas is another great one. Yeah, Sabicas.
And for me, how my introduction to that style, listen to anything the Gypsy Kings did.
Oh yeah.
Gypsy Kings are an amazing group. And if you want to get an idea of the rhythm, thing, because the thing is, when you listen to someone like a Paco de Lucia, you have to kind of focus a little bit more on those guys that was accompanying him, because he is so out front.
Yeah.
Using the Gypsy King, since it's more of a vocal band, it's just like 9 guys all playing rhythm guitar, and it makes the rhythm very clear as to what you should be doing. And other than that, it's all technical stuff. Like, relax. Because if you make the fist for the flamenco show, you ain't gonna make it.
No, and like it's the same advice for people who are like, how do I get into like Hawaiian music and stuff? Like, you just gotta immerse yourself in it. Like, you can't just, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just be like, okay, well, I'm gonna like go and do this like Hawaiian song or whatever without like really knowing what Hawaiian music is all about, or that style, or whatever. Like the spirit of it, kind of thing. And that's why I think you should, and not saying you haven't already, maybe you have and stuff, but that's the most important thing, is to really get to know it, to pay your respects to that, to that style first, before like implementing it to to an instrument that's not necessarily associated with that, with that style.
I mean, like with most styles of music, just really don't be superficial about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're interested in it, get into it. Listen to it. Find out what's going on. If you're just copying something because you think here's a cool trick I can learn.
Yeah. I know
That's,
I know how to play. I'm like a flamenco artist now. I was like, no, it's not. No.
Sorry, your 0.001% of that is not really going to qualify you for much, buddy. But and I think we've all met somebody like that who they took like 2 lessons.
Yeah.
Bought like 1 CD and not oh, I'm gonna sound so whiplash here, but like as a jazz guy, one thing that just absolutely kills me is when somebody's like, hey, I'm gonna play jazz now. I want to play jazz. And it's like, okay, so who are you listening to? Well, I went to Starbucks and I bought that Medley, Starbucks jazz album. And, I listened to that. It's so good. And I'm like,
you're calling out everybody right now.
I am calling a lot of people out without calling a lot of people out. But man, it's like, but I mean, that's kind of like, for my thing, jazz is of course my home based music, and I'm like, look, if you want to get into it, you don't necessarily have to become an expert on every form of jazz that there's ever been, because that's a lot.
Yeah.
Pick one first. Pick one and go with that. Learn what that meant, because like as an ukulele player, like guys who are jazz ukulele players, they're very different.
Yeah.
Because I can think of 3 different guys who are all amazing jazz ukulele players, but play jazz very differently. And if you listen to it and you can't tell the difference between Lyle Ritz, Benny Chong, and Abe Lagermoss playing, that's exactly what I'm talking about here. Because those 3 guys are all jazz guys, but they're all very different. They're very their function and their base in that their foundational music is really different. So that's what you do. Any new form of music you want, just throw yourself into it.
I like how you pick those 3 guys, because like one guy's approach is a bass player's approach, one guy's approach is a guitar player's approach, and the other guy's approach is a drummer's approach. To jazz. So
and but you know what I mean. But it did manifest itself all very differently.
Yeah.
But the thing is, nobody would look at any of those 3 guys and say, well, that's not a jazz player. You absolutely would look at any of those guys and say, oh, they're jazz guys. But Lyle is very old school, real old school. I mean, he would have fit in as a bass player, but as a ukulele player, he would have fit in like in a big band, like his style of playing jazz. Benny's is like that more like hard bop era stuff, and Abe is like a bebopper / like all the more modern jazz, which like has taken scales, as we've talked about, taken scales and ideas from like all over the planet instead. Someone in the middle at Miller Jazz is more like bebop and blues and stuff like that. Abe is the throwing in like Middle Eastern scales and stuff like that, and that's all stuff that people now are thinking like, okay, I've been playing the same scales over this C7 for 5 years now. What else is out there? What can I do? What else is out there? And we now live in the era where, because of technology, finding all that stuff is
pretty easy.
Super easy.
Just
click,
boop 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 boop. 150.
More boops. There you go. Just follow the boops, people. It leads you it always leads you right.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things though, is because technology is so easy, right? Like usually the things that are kind of like the surface level or the most easily to digest float to the top. And so that's what people will see a lot, like that, like you said, like the jazz compilation album from Starbucks, or like Aaron's example is like, if you think Hawaiian music is like Bugs Bunny playing Little Grass Shack, then it's like, no, Hawaiian music has like a way deeper hole, right? So that's kind of the thing, is like, it's okay if that's how you got into it, but it's like it's just nice to know that whatever you get into, there's a lot more to it than just that surface level that you might see, that might pop up on your feed or whatever.
I know Hawaii music. I bought the Honolulu Airport compilation album.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah. Yeah, if
I've heard
you've gotten
Don Ho or Daniel Ho songs that I know
Yeah.
Hawaiian music. Hi.
like Alan is in our chat, right? And Alan is like
Yeah.
a great slacky guitarist. And if I said like, oh, I love like the slacky compilation album from the airport, Alan would probably be like, oh, I dedicated my
Yeah.
life to slacky. Oh, I'm dying.
Yeah.
You know, so
Now that you've heard Kohala, maybe you should hear everybody else.
Oh my
All right. Okay. That's enough. That's enough. Now, it is past 2. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we want to thank our very special guest, Mr. Mike Odo. Hey, round of applause, everyone. Thank you for joining us, Mike. If people want to find you, if they're on Kauai, like where can they find you? Where can they buy a 2023 platinum from you? Where can they do that?
The 2 that we will be getting in sometime this year can be found at Scotty's Music. It's on the island of Kauai. If you're coming out of the airport, it's literally like a 5-minute drive away. The other way to know is if you're driving on Kauai and you know where Walmart is, look for a giant Gibson Explorer sign, and you'll find us.
Yeah, there's only one Walmart on Kauai, so don't worry about it. If
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
see a Walmart, that's the one. That's the one
Yeah.
Walmart.
You found the right one.
Yeah.
There's literally only one of everything on Kauai except
That's true.
McDonald's and Burger King.
Starbucks.
Starbucks. ABC store.
Which one 2 of?
oh, the Starbucks, the premier jazz cafe, right on Kauai.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Oh,
You know,
man.
it's not so bad when the Starbucks does the compilations where they actually took actual tracks. Like you see like great jazz and you look at it, it's actually like old tracks of Charlie Parker, John Coltrane. The one that really just look at and like the stylings of the great artists are like, you know, the sounds of Duke Ellington as interpreted by, you know, I don't know, Bruno Zeffirelli and his orchestra. That's not a real one, but you get the idea.
And the 8th grade band.
Oh, I can't. Oh, I know exactly what to get you for Christmas this year, Mike. Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Heartache? Yes, okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, we will have Aloha Friday Live Jam, so tune into that. That's 1 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. If you are a UU Plus subscriber, please stick around. I will be doing live coaching right after this in about 12 minutes. And if you don't know what that is, you're like, what is UU Plus? What is this thing? Where are you teaching? UU Plus is our subscription content over at ukuleleunderground.com. You have access to basically all our videos from the past 15, count them, 5, 10, 15 years of Ukulele Underground. All thousands. Right, Kai? Thousands of videos over at Ukulele Underground Plus. So make sure you check that out. And you can book 2 private lessons with yours truly. See this right now? This is what you see during the private lessons. I will help you out with whatever you need help with. And a lot of people, even in the chat, can attest to what that's like. And I've helped out, I don't know, tens of people maybe, no, hundreds, thousands of people maybe on the private lessons. So be one of those thousands of people that have taken private lessons from me and have moved up to the next level. We'll see you folks next time. Enjoy your weekend.
Wait.
Yes.
You always forget to do this. If you would also like to buy an ukulele, possibly an Aldrine Guerrero model, possibly an Islander, and you're not on the island of Kauai to come buy it from me, shop.ukuleleunderground.com.
Shop.ukuleleunderground.com. Thank you, Mike. Shop.ukuleleunderground.com.
Mike really is our hype man. Like we really do need him.
You can buy kanileas, you can buy Islander ukuleles, buy kanilea ukulele, and you can buy single lessons from the Ukulele Underground archive. So if you just want to watch the Hawaiian lessons that we have, people want to just watch the what else do we have there, Kahai? Beginner, like ultimate beginner stuff. Matt Dahlberg's newest lesson. We're gonna have a bunch of other new lessons and series over at shop.ukuleleunderground.com. Shop.ukuleleunderground.com. Get a uke, and I believe if you buy a kanile ukulele, you get like a month free of Ukulele Underground, and if you buy an Islander ukulele, get 2 weeks of or UU Plus, 2 weeks of UU Plus, 1 month of UU Plus with the kanile ukulele. So if you're like, what do I do with this thing? Bam, log in UU Plus, meet with me privately, and I will show you. Okay? I'll see you folks next time. Thank you, Mike. Have a great weekend. Aloha.